Why is it when men and women talk about the same thing, they often come away with a completely different understanding of the situation? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV. This week, my special guest is creator and host of Second Act TV, Silke Schwarzkopf. It all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California, Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast, and we're on UK Health Radio all weekend long. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, it is the interview portion of our show, and I'm delighted to welcome back one of our friends of Guys Radio, a very special guest, the creator and host of Second Act TV, the runaway hit on YouTube, my friend and colleague on social media and YouTube, Silke Schwarzkopf. Welcome back to Guys Radio. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Robert. I'm just great. I love the introduction. I didn't know I had a runaway show, but good for me.
It is a rocket ship, more and more subscribers, and I am delighted because you're so kind to invite me on the show on a regular basis, and hopefully we reach I know we reach a lot of people, and hopefully we're helping them. So I thought, yes, as we do every so often, return the favor, have you come on to Guys Radio, because we're here to help, and we love to work with the over 50 crowd. And as we know, they have issues. There's a lot of single people over 50, some by design, others not so. And whether you want to get married or not when you're over 50, it's always nice to have somebody that you can hang with at least, and maybe more. So what we want to get into today is a little fun topic. It's about, we're going to do a list. We're going to start with the women, a list of things that men think women like, but especially about dating and relationships, but that many women actually don't like, or not at least in the way that men assume. These understandings can quietly sabotage connections, and it's a lot of fun. So we've got a list of about 10, and then we'll give you the guys' side also, and when we're done with this, and kind of flip the script, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started. You ready for the first one, Silke?
I absolutely am, Robert.
All right. Now, and this is based on Silke's personal experience, as well as all the folks she's interviewed, all the relationship experts she's interviewed on a regular basis on Second Act TV. So,
well, there seems to be a common theme in a lot of this, and that's why I think these are important to know points that seem so obvious, but apparently are not.
Absolutely. And you see my book in the background there, the Guys to Love, and it's all about somebody who wrote a book about men for women, because he didn't think that women really got guys the way we really are. And the good news is, the news is not that bad. So let's do that with an eye to the positive, and let's see what happens here. So number one, drum roll, please. Over the top compliments about physical appearance. You know how guys, everybody likes a compliment, but many times guys are like, you look hot, or they're always thinking with not necessarily the head that's up here, and they sometimes say things that really are a little bit too overt. And women like compliments, but they don't always want compliments about their looks. So what's your perspective, Silke, about over-the-top compliments about physical appearance, where guys think she's going to be flattered because I'm going to tell her how sexy she is right off the bat?
An immediate turnoff. An absolutely immediate turnoff. And the reason is exactly for what you said. It's what, am I just a body? A compliment, especially, okay, and this sounds maybe just a little bit arrogant, but when you're halfway decent looking, you also get that so much that it's like, okay, I've heard it all before. This guy has nothing more to say. It's almost insulting, actually, because it's totally inappropriate. I can't say that enough nowadays. But I think, as a rule, find a compliment that has nothing to do with appearance, and that is something that a woman really appreciates. Like, I love you, your energy is just, God, you're really funny. I mean, something that isn't, whoa, you're hot. No, out of there.
Now, it's interesting. Everybody does love a compliment, though. So it's not a bad thing for a guy in the early stages of the relationship to give a woman a compliment, right? It's just
No, it's not. Yeah, but it's sexy, and I mean that already implies more than just getting to know each other. I mean, let me feel like you want something more than sex. I mean, that's
mhm.
it objectifies a woman, and I normally don't. I'm being somewhat strong in my answer here because it really can be a huge turnoff to where you just want to roll your eyes and just with a little bit of thought, you can give a compliment that truly means something.
Now, what if it's about, it's not necessarily sexy, but it's like, oh, I love the way you did your hair today, or I love your bag. Now, that's kind of a weird one. Or I love those shoes. Where'd you get those shoes? Or
Yeah,
is
that
there a way to dance around the issue without being actually sexually oriented?
yeah. I mean, if you well, first of all, be genuine. If you really like my bag, great. Yeah, that is not. I think you said it right, Robert. It's that sexually oriented is what can be a huge turnoff, and women really don't like that.
So, because sometimes if I'm speaking to somebody and I look at people's like necklaces or jewelry, like I like silver, I like that silver necklace
Mm-hmm.
you have on in a medallion. That's fantastic. So, if I complimented you on that, that's not to me, it's not a sexual thing. I like uh, tasteful women who pick out tasteful jewelry. I think is a real skill, and I like that. And I like to wear a necklace. I got my R on today, and I think it's a cool thing. So, to me, that doesn't seem like a sexual thing.
It's
However,
not.
good.
Go ahead.
So, however, I think the greatest compliment a man can pay a woman is calling her by her name, Silke.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That, you know what, that holds true in almost any interaction with people. When you say somebody's name, it's like, yeah, you draw them just that much closer. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. That's a huge I don't know if is it a compliment or just an acknowledgement that draws you closer, that actually establishes a connection faster.
Absolutely. I think it works both ways. I think everybody loves to hear the sound of their name,
Mhm.
whether it's subconsciously or whatever. But as soon as you hear your name, it's like, oh, I'm being recognized. That's good. Um,
Mhm.
let's go to number two. Another drum roll. Flashing wealth or flashing wealth or status. Now, here's one. This is ubiquitous because so many guys, particularly guys over 50, a lot of times they have their wallet to stand on or their power. Those are the two big ones. And when those, they really lean on that a lot. And flashing wealth and status. And the guys think, well, if she sees I'm successful, she's going to be impressed. And women want security and stability and material stuff, and I can throw some money around. That's a really good thing. Well, I would think, yeah, that's a good thing, but don't be boring about it. There's a way to demonstrate your you have it. You've got your act together, and you have some things and
Yep.
you have some success without telling it.
Oh, if you tell me that says insecurity right away. This kind of stuff needs to be noticed, not you don't tell me about it. And again, I have a really strong opinion there. And I want to maybe preface it by saying that I realize that sometimes I'm a lot different than other women. Like, for example, I hate shopping. So maybe I'm answering for women when women say, no, I like that. Hey, I'd love to be told if I'm sexy. So, again, I don't mean to speak for all
Sure.
women, but you have me on your show today. And I do speak for some when I'm speaking for myself. So let me just clarify that. But again, wealth and status is another big thing that can really run somebody off right away, because it's like the Texas saying, big hat, no cattle.
Mhm.
I actually like when I see the rolled Rolex, and what it's like, it's an immediate turn off because it's flashy. It says, hey, I have all this. I've never been more impressed than by a man who I knew was really, really wealthy, and he wore Timex. And I thought that is so understated. That speaks to me a lot more than somebody that flashes around their wealth.
Interesting. How about with the cars? Because we're out here in Southern California, and there's a lot of great cars. And invariably, when I looking at cars on the road, I'm like, wow, another Maserati, and like, wow, I love this Mercedes, 350 SEL or whatever. And
Mhm.
invariably, it's a boomer guy driving his toy. And like sometimes you see some young guys, but the older guys have the dough. And what do
Mhm.
you think about that, or what do you hear that other women think if the guy's got the real, the overt car or the red Corvette? I mean, I
Oh
wouldn't drive
boy.
around the red Corvette not at my age. I'm just that's not my
Mm.
favorite vehicle, but I like a
Yeah.
good car. But
Mhm.
I'm not a car, flash car person. But some people are, and I think some people like the really flashy hot cars.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that can go either way. Because men, let's face it, and a lot of women for that matter, are gearheads. They really do like certain cars, and if you can afford it, buy it. Um, Again, am I necessarily impressed if you've come up with a Maserati? Maybe, I, there's a little bit more to it than that. Depends on how the man acts, how, does he genuinely like this car or does he have it to impress? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the combination the combination of Maserati and dyed hair that is obvious is that's a no-go.
Okay.
But come out in some casual jeans and you got some gray showing, you're the silver fox.
Mm-hmm.
That's another story.
Now, when you have a home or someplace, that to me, like, what are you going to do? It is what it is. If that's where you live, that's where you live. So if is there a way that a guy needs to manage that? I know for myself, and I'm not, and I've never been a wealthy person, but I used to have this place down the Jersey Shore. It was a top floor of a Victorian
Mhm.
home and had a spot on view of the ocean. It was
Beautiful.
great. And every time not every time, but almost every time I dated women and brought them there, good things happened because of like the view or whatever. So to me, I guess there's a sexiness about nature and the ocean, but also having something on the beachfront and all of that. It's a little bit of a turn on. I got to think like somebody's thinking, hey, I can. When are we going down? I used to always get like, we're going down the shore this weekend. Can we go down the shore? Or like,
Yeah.
because why not? It's
I think the home says so much about you, and you should do that exactly what you want. And it's different than a car, because the car you take out and drive, or the Rolex you take out and wear, and a lot of people do that and they don't have a home on the beach. They have the car and the Rolex to show off, and it's usually obvious when it is. But the home, absolutely, that is impressive, especially if it's decorated in a way that's, and again, this is me talking, but warm, inviting, not something that I don't know. I don't particularly care for the castle look and that kind of opulence, but something that's real, that's down to earth. This is your home. I can afford this, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I have no problem with that. At all, especially when you don't tell me what a great home you have. And maybe after dating for a few weeks, you invite me over for dinner. And then oh, wow, you,
That's good. Right?
you never mentioned this. That would be impressive.
That's cool. I love it. Okay. Special guest on Guys Radio, return guest, Silke Schwarzkopf, the creator and hostess with the mostest of Second Act TV, the runaway YouTube hit. And I'm always delighted to be on your show, Silke. So let's get back to some of the things that men think that women are going to react to, and doesn't necessarily mean it's in a positive way. So,
Mhm.
number 3, acting cool, too cool to care, acting aloof. Guys think, hey, a little mystery, that's going to make me more attractive.
Well, again, it depends on how they come off. If is it just does it come off aloof, like the 80s disco guy? I mean, but a little mystery, I think, is absolutely, just a man who doesn't say much but projects. That to me is attractive. And I don't know how to describe it, Robert. The difference between to where you just, oh, I'm too cool for school, and just, hey, I'm cool because he is.
So it sounds like it's a difference between confidence and arrogance. There's a fine line there,
Absolutely.
right?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Now, how about the folks that you interview, the ladies on Second Act TV? What's their take on materialism and how much money a guy has? How important is that? You want stability, I would think, but
Well, yes. Okay. Stability. Absolutely. I want to, somebody who pays their bills and, at least has a lifestyle that we would both, that we want, and I've never been lavish either. So, I wouldn't be comfortable in a lot of those styles. It's not what I
got it.
want. And when you ask me, the ladies, meaning the guests that I have on, you've had, so, some of them,
Mhm, sure.
they would 100% agree with me, because that's one of the reasons they're on all the time, because we gel in that way. And I've never been one for labels, for like you said, just display, a grand display of wealth. So I look for people or I'm comfortable with people who feel the same way.
Okay, here's one I think a lot of guys suffer from. They kind of run before they walk when it's a new relationship, and that's giving lavish gifts too soon. And I think it's easy also about, you meet for a first date. Let's say you met online or something, and you take the woman out to a big lavish dinner, and, and invariably a lot of those guys are telling the woman like, "You're the one for me" or whatever, and the train moves too quickly, whether it's gifts, dinners, or whatever. And the guy thinks like, I'm being, I'm generous and I'm serious about you and I'm showing what I've got and what I've got to give and share. But it's not really the same way in terms of how a woman's going to take that.
Well, again, if that really is his intent, it's just, hey, I really like you and I want to do this. Do I think it's a smart thing to, or not smart, but a wise thing to do? No, probably not, because it's a big red flag that this could be love bombing. That's a huge sign of love bombing. But generosity that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And I guess what I'm saying is it's just not necessary in the beginning. It raises more questions. Anything lavish, I mean, it raises more questions than it does necessarily do for you, if you will. And it can raise a lot of questions. Why? If it's inappropriate, it's like, what does he want? What am I going to owe? What does he think? I mean, do I owe him something now? Does this mean
Right.
I've got to sleep with him? I mean,
Right.
it brings
Exactly.
all that to mind.
How about in terms of the generosity? And when we're over 50 and we've had some, we have some tread on the tires in a good way, we have good experience. Who needs to pay for the first date? I always tell guys, just pay for the first date, whether it's coffee, a drink, or a light dinner or something, and then just hopefully things will work out. If you're with somebody who's cool, they're not going to expect you to pay for everything every single time, or maybe they'll make you dinner or something, or they'll get tickets to a ball game, whatever it is. A good relationship, things kind of even out, and you don't have to keep score. But that first date can be tricky because sometimes a woman thinks, well, if he's paying, what do I have to give him? Just like you said, do I owe him something? So what should guys do on that first date? I always think like, just offer to pick up the check. I've never been stopped. And when I was in that situation, just do it. And then don't worry about it. It is what it is.
I absolutely agree. To me, and maybe it's because of the generation that we're from, there's just something about a man picking up the tab. That's just it's expected in a way that's just manly, in my opinion. This may sound, I don't know, sexist or what, but it's just manly behavior. I mean, an answer might be, whoever ask the person out that they should pay, and women now do, hey, you want to, and then even then, if so, I invited you here, I'm getting the bill, the man, you insist on paying. Now that's making an impression. That's like, wow, okay, hey, thanks. And there are so many other ways to repay that, and not by sleeping with them or any sexual favors, but this is, again, the way that I've have been in my relationships, the way Paul and I are. I mean, when we go out, he pays for dinner. I think it's embarrassing for me to pick up the check. I feel like that's almost emasculating a man. And I know people disagree, but that's why we're having these conversations,
Exactly.
to hear various opinions. And in this particular case, I suppose, old fashioned. And if it's a business thing or something that's different, or it's like, what, Paul, hey, thanks, I really appreciate it, but I really wanted to go here. We invited some of my friends. I'm getting this. I'm getting, but it would be that way, not to where I'm just, oh, here, I'm paying, and he just sits there and people go, okay. I think it's almost emasculating.
Well, I think now and then, if a woman wants to pick up the check and she's well off or has a good job or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Right.
it's not a bad thing. If the guy's paid the last three and you pick up one,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's cool. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal. There should be a
Right.
flow with the finances as and what makes sense. Now, if the guy's a billionaire and the woman is a waitress or something, of course he should be paying for everything. But
Right.
in most
Right.
cases, there's some type of you're closer in income these days, and so hopefully you make it work and it doesn't become an issue. That's the thing to me. The biggest thing is don't make an issue out of it.
Right.
I remember I dated this one woman about 4 or 5 times. I liked her and everything, and then she never picked up. She wouldn't even never bought me a drink or coffee or anything. And I actually, this is the only time I ever said something. I said, geez, I think I'm happy to pay for stuff, and we have been. But do
Yeah.
you ever? What's your
Right.
philosophy on this? And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, the guy pays for everything." I said, "Okay."
No.
I said, "Everything." I
Yeah.
said, "Do you bake a cake or something?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "No, I don't cook. Just the guy pays." I said, "Okay." Needless to say, knowing me, that was
Yeah.
the last date because I just
No.
thought it was not a generous of heart. And I think
Yeah.
that's really the issue is you should want to do some things for your partner, but it's a little bit old fashioned in a bad way to expect the
Mm-hmm.
guy, unless he's a billionaire and you're again, somebody who's struggling,
Mm-hmm.
that the guy pays for everything. It should be some type of flow where it feels right.
Oh, I absolutely agree. The thing is with dinner, because it's such a traditional setting that says so much about how people behave. There's manners involved. It's that particular scenario. I mean, I believe me, I do a lot for Paul that is far more valuable than picking up the check here and there,
Yep. Yep.
and remaining in those traditional roles.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm expressing my opinion. I get criticized about it. Others say, no, absolutely, that is right. Let us just maintain some of the traditional roles without taking advantage. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. And when you get deeper into a relationship, I know, like I'm married, and my wife is a great cook, and she's
Mm-hmm.
Korean, and she loves to cook. And so she just says, "What do you feel like eating?" I said, "What do you feel like making?" And whatever she feels like making, she's going to make it good because she feels like making it. And if
Mm-hmm.
I really have a craving for something, I'll mention it, but very rarely because
Mm-hmm.
she could just make anything. So invariably, it's like a Korean restaurant in the kitchen where there's like a stack of, for one meal, it's like
Yeah.
an incredible amount of dishes and pots and all that. But I just, I pop the earbuds in, put some stones on or whatever, and get out the like steel wool and I do the dishes. It's like it is what it is,
Yeah.
and so what? That's good. Like she's
Right.
cooking, I'm cleaning. It works. I don't expect her to do
Right.
everything, and I'm not going to do everything. A lot of guys I know love to cook, and they're very good cooks. I would be and I cooked for many years because I was taking care of myself. But if you're with somebody and they love to cook and they just very inventive and creative, go at it. I love to eat.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. No, yeah. And I love to cook too. Paul actually liked to cook too. So that's not, but yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
No objection there.
Okay. We're talking about things that guys say that they think really means something to women, and sometimes it's being taken in a different way by the woman. So here's one:
Mhm.
sexual innuendos early on. So the guys think, I have to show I'm interested and attracted to her. If I don't like give her a little bit of something, she's going to think that like, I'm not interested in her physically. That can backfire though.
Yeah, that it again, it's depends on how it's said. If it's truly like okay, I think it should be somewhat humorous to where you could chuckle at it and not to where it's a smutty thing.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, I mean, sexual innuendos can be a huge turnoff. And in a way, I'm kind of guilty of it because depending on what, like, I'll say something inappropriate probably sooner than most men would, because sometimes, sometimes it's funny,
Mhm.
but it definitely can be taken the wrong way. I remember one of the first dates I was on, and he was a really nice looking guy. We actually ended up dating for a few months, but he was really in really good shape. We hit it off, and then I don't know how this even came up, but we're talking about him that he somehow it came up that he was a virgin or didn't have sex until he was 29. And I I don't know, it just came out of my mouth. I said, "Oh, is that why your arms are so nice?" And because it was just, I mean, it was totally inappropriate, but he ended up taking it funny. But something like it's just, it depends on how it's delivered. If it's something that's humorous, that is maybe even a not a backhanded compliment, uh, but just the smutty stuff is
Right,
is
right. And women
it's
have
a big turn off.
a brilliant way of letting guys know, that they're interested. I'll give you two examples. When I had my beach house, a woman said to me, she said, "Is that where you sleep?" I'm like, and I was like, you know, of course, I said yes. And the next thing, we're testing out, we're testing out the bed. And another one was, my girlfriend said she bet me $20 I wouldn't sleep with you on the first date.
That's funny.
I'm
That's
like, I'm
funny.
like, well, do you want to win that bet or what?
No, that's funny. That's funny.
Both of them
I
were very
Yeah,
good.
I think that's fun. I think again that this is yeah. Just don't be respectful
Yeah,
while doing that.
clever,
I guess clever. Yeah, clever, but not in a ooh, baby. I
right?
mean that's
Not
get
leering,
away from
right?
me. Yeah,
Not icky.
right,
All right,
right.
here's one, Silka, that I think we all have experienced. Texting, and it's very true of the up and coming generations, if you will. Texting all day instead of making real plans. The guys think, well, she'll feel connected if we keep chatting, and but sometimes women think like, come on, man, make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, it doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, why? In a way, because I remember seeing this, and that's almost more of what women might do. Like, I don't, maybe I just don't know guys like that text all day. And that would be totally annoying to me. I think that
Yeah,
it shows almost a bit of desperation, And then if you don't make any plans, well, what does that accomplish?
right. It's like
That's
hanging
a
out. There's a lot of
right,
hanging out, and the guys. Nowadays they've been kind of trained to be lazy, where you can stay at home and you're tidy whities and meet all these
right.
really terrific women. Where in the past, my
Hmm.
generation, hi, my name is Bob. You want to dance,
Right,
or something. It was
right.
like you had to put yourself out there
Yeah.
one way and another. But I think it makes you better to have to do that because
Hmm.
that's life. You have to put yourself out there if you want to really make a connection. You have to do it face to face. It's interesting. Another quick anecdote. When I was first met my wife, we met online. I had all these rules. I was like, quick, if I get a wink or I write first, quick, back and
Hmm.
forth, I send my number. And usually
Hmm.
that means like I'm sending my number so I'm not creepy and this way the woman can call if she wants to do that. But invariably, the woman would send me her number because she wanted
Hmm.
me to pick up the phone. So I did that with
Hmm.
my wife. I didn't know she was on a 3 day pass or something on Match. And she said, why do we have to have a phone call? And I always thought, when you hear somebody's voice, there's a different type of energetic exchange.
I agree.
And it could like be wrong, like a couple, and so she said, no phone call, let's just meet. I was like, well,
Hmm.
I have in my head, I was like, I have these rules. This is my, I do this. back and forth, and then we have a phone call, and then if that
Mhm.
works, and she said, no, that's not phone, let's just meet. And I said, well, you know what, maybe that's a good idea because I just made up these rules, so I can break them. So I broke them. We met, and I was like delighted because usually my go-to was when you're dealing with online dating, I put the 85% on it. So if you get 85% of what's been promised from the person's profile, whatever, that's a
Mhm.
win. If you
Mhm.
get beyond that, that's really
Mhm.
good. When I met my
Yeah.
wife, honestly, I got 110%. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And well, here we are. We're married. So
Yeah.
it can work, but it's it's so funny that the texting and the process. We set up all these rules and everything, and the interview
Mhm.
questions and all of that. It's not necessary. Just have a conversation, have some fun.
Mhm. No, I agree. I that's really funny that uni did that, and I think maybe the dynamic of it is different when a woman says that. I would not advise women to just if a man said that, oh no, we don't need just let's just meet. I wouldn't have. I would no,
I
you know
I
what? I
totally
want
hear you. Yeah.
I want to talk with you first. I want to
Yeah.
hear like what you said. And really, I didn't ever meet anybody until we talked a few times because I know right away whether there's a rapport or not. I'm not saying talking
Right.
for 8 weeks, but maybe a call here. Okay, well, okay, fine. But I want to hear that voice, and I also think that's I don't know. It's important. I would question why doesn't he want to talk to me first? Why do we have to
Exactly.
that would be a little strange to me.
It was
Yeah.
strange to me, and I said, this
Mm-hmm.
could be, this is I could look at it as refreshing, and I can
Yeah.
just, then I said, why did I make these rules? They're my rules, so I can do whatever I want with them. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? She seems nice, and she contacted me, and like, okay, let's see what happens. So you take a chance, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, I didn't take it too
Right.
seriously, and it worked out. So that's a good thing. Now, I think overall, Silka, here's kind of one of maybe it's the biggest one. When guys try to impress instead of connect, guys think, and sometimes they're put into a position where you go out on one of these dates and you're asked a lot of questions, and the woman
Mm-hmm.
or doesn't really share a lot. They're trying
Mm-hmm.
to feel you out, and they're like judging you the whole time, not necessarily on purpose, but they're judging you, and it puts you in a tough position. So you end up kind of listing your accomplishments instead of making that connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, if you're bragging, that's such an immediate turnoff, also. And I think sometimes for both men and women, if somebody is just talking about themselves, it could be out of nervous. It could be out of nervousness if it's if it's a first date. And so there's some forgiveness there. But if somebody does not, get back with you or ask anything, do you need to break?
Oh.
Okay. And if somebody doesn't stop to ever ask you anything, uh yeah, that's I mean that's a yeah, it has to go back and forth, like you said, make that connection. And incidentally, when the more questions you ask, the more interesting you actually become. Because if you show interest in me, and ask me about myself, now I'm all of a sudden I'm more drawn to you because you're showing interest. And that's a lot of people need to learn that, I think.
Makes perfect sense. Okay,
Mhm.
let's why don't we have some fun and flip it around and like let's talk a little bit about things that women think guys like, but sometimes men might not necessarily feel the same way. And
Mhm.
these misconceptions can quietly push guys away. So let me try the first one here. For women, trying to look perfect all the time, where the guys they're not expecting perfection because they're not
Mhm.
perfect, and they're not looking quite as closely as you may be looking at yourself. Talk to us about that. Overthinking.
Yeah, a lot of women do that, and I do to some extent. I'm a more casual person, so I don't do the high heels and dresses and all that. But I do I yeah, I do that, and I think that men put more value on that than they actually do. I mean, I've learned that a lot of times, Paul will not, they don't notice that. And, the little things that we do where we, feel good about ourselves, they actually don't get noticed. I think I'd have to ask a man that. But yeah, it maybe it gives you confidence, just got the eyelashes perfect, I look good. You would never know that I worked, how
Maybe
long I
it
worked on
depends.
the
Yeah,
eyelash.
right.
Yeah,
Of
so
course, yeah, but I wouldn't know what went into it. I would just know the final product and I
right.
connect with it. So, okay, here's one that I think is really very, very true. Is that is this having the long list of
Mm-hmm.
dating requirements. Now, if you're over 50, I find, and I don't mean this to be said in a mean way, that kind of the longer the list, the longer you're going to be single because you
Mm-hmm.
have to, at a certain point, prioritize. Okay, here's three must-haves.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, if the guy does he have to have long fingers or not? Does he have to be over 6'3"? I mean, you have to like be a little bit more flexible, particularly
Mm-hmm.
if you're over 50 and dating, in terms of being open to meeting different types of people. What's your sense of that? Because a lot of times women have long lists, and the lists get longer the longer they're single.
They do, and they think that shows some sort of that they have standards or something. I've heard that, and it's a huge mistake. Long lists will keep you single. We've said that because nobody can really, there's no perfection. You're never going to achieve it. Your expectations are always going to be met with disappointment. And it, yeah, the men feel like that they're in an interview, or anybody would feel like they're in an interview. I've never had a man actually do that to me. I think it is a female thing. We tend to want to check off the boxes, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah,
No,
it can backfire if it's
right.
too long.
Mm-hmm.
Playing hard to get. Now, sometimes women might think like, oh yeah, if I make myself a little unavailable, make them have to work hard, that could be a good thing. But sometimes a guy will say, oh my God, if she's not going to be interested in me, or she's not interested in me.
Well, I think to what extent, I would have to say, because I think there absolutely is, if you're like available and you're always there and he doesn't have to put anything into it, then a little mystery or a little, hey, yeah, I think that the men are attracted to that. Or it ups their interest, but just
The
being
hunting, right? The whole like hunting instinct.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Now, how much should you put into that to be hunted? That's the degree to which you do that, I think, is where it becomes a turn off. But I would advise or against, just being available. I'm going to show him that I like him. And
Right.
that's something I did in the beginning. And believe me, it backfired every time. It's like, whoa, get
Yeah,
back.
no, that you're right. That happens. The guy will think like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, she's too available. Well, what's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with her? And
Yeah.
I think the women need to keep guys kind of on point, at least
Mm-hmm.
paying attention, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how about this one? Critiquing or correcting him. Now, in every relationship, there's going to be quite a bit of that coming from the female side in an intention of making the relationship better. But when you're doing that in the early days of dating, a lot of guys are going to turn off to that and say, like, I don't see the big picture here, and I don't need this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sometimes, like what you said, when you say it the way you did, that women, are trying to make it better. It sounds like that's such BS. But it truly is. Like I'm thinking if I gave feedback or something, it was from a good place, and it was annoying. Once I realized what I was doing, once that was pointed out to me, especially during the show, as I have more and more interviews and we get comments and we get this, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, and how annoying that must be. It's nobody wants to be criticized. There's, criticism is one of the key killers of any relationship. And at the beginning, I think it's a huge red flag.
Okay, Silke, here's another good one for you. Talking too much about feelings too soon. And sometimes the women will think, oh, he'll like it that I'm really open and I'm emotionally deep, and the guys will say, no, no, like pressure. I don't like this. Not too early. You have to really be careful in terms of the talk and the feelings and all of that. And that's a real it's an art as well as a science in terms of how to get guys to start talking about feelings in a way that's authentic. So if you're a woman and you're talking too much about your feelings too soon, trying to kind of prod that out of him, that might not work. He might just like witness you doing that and not take the bait. It might be like, oh, the game's going to start now, you know.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, that's, I can't even really identify with that, to be perfectly honest, to start about feelings too early. I it's yes, men are very uncomfortable with that if you know, depending again on how it's presented. I think that, like, again, what some of the mistakes I made that might go towards that is is sharing too much, that shows too much interest right up front, and that kind of borders on that. But yeah, anything with feelings can be, I mean, it's just a turnoff to men, or
Yeah.
so they say, and that's certainly, you know, what I mean. To this day, Paul, just no, you can't. It's almost impossible for some men to talk about feelings. It becomes a joke, you
Yeah.
know, when we even try.
That's hilarious. Okay, last one. Being, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, Silke, being available 24/7 to show that you're loyal. And women think,
Mhm.
see, I'm reliable and I'm really invested in the relationship. But guys might think like, why is she, doesn't she have anything else to do? I mean, she's too
Right.
available, and that's putting pressure on me to like occupy her time, and I have stuff to do. And it
Mhm.
just, the guys will start thinking then.
Yep. I was that woman. I was that woman until I realized that's what I was doing, and really what kind of a turn off, you know, that can be. If I had plans with my girlfriends and then he called, because I would cancel on them. I would be available. I was available, and that did not work out
Mhm.
ever. I mean,
How did you
that ran
learn?
short.
How did you learn your lesson on that, and how did you turn it around?
Honestly, after I was dating, like, there was three guys I dated in a row, each of whom I liked. I saw potential there, and it didn't last long. And I was totally available to them, totally available. And I did things that were totally inappropriate in terms of supporting their life, and it was like, wow, what, you know, what, doesn't she have anything better to do? Like, one guy was a writer. He asked me, he knew I'm an editor, and then, God, I'd love to have your opinion on my book, you know, I'm about to give it to my editor. And he gave me the transcript. I edited the damn thing. I rewrote parts of it. It's totally inappropriate. And you know, like 2 weeks after that, we were done. And a couple other things that were just,
Did he like your edits?
he did like the edits, and his editor liked the edits, but he didn't like the fact that I took the initiative. Because I asked him, I said, "What did your editing app say?" He goes, "Yeah, you said exactly what you said." I said, "Okay," but it was not my place to do that, especially it, you know, when we're trying to make a connection on a romantic level.
Mhm.
But it was stuff like that, and then really having, like, my girlfriends pointed out to me, because why are you always so available? You know, you could say no to say,
Mhm.
and then I thought about it. I said, well, once I learned that, it
Yeah,
changed.
and you don't want to play games, but you don't, you
Right.
know, there's a fine line between, you know, you're available, but you want to say, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not available just to say I'm not available. And then how does
Right.
that help? So you have to kind of
Right.
be smart about it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, great conversation. I think we covered a lot, and a lot of these topics are so funny and so common, regardless of age. Silke, what's your kind of final thoughts on the whole thing in terms of like guys thinking something's going to come across one way and yet it comes across another, and vice versa, where women think one thing and like, no, guys are like, thumbs down. How do we approach that, the differences?
Well, just understand that there are differences. that, and learn about what those differences are in communication style. There's really no easy answers. I mean, the stuff that I learned just by doing this show and I learn something new every day. I swear to God, I learn something new every day. Or I'll have an aha moment where I say, "Oh my God, that was me. That this is what I did." And people who don't have that, like you and I do, where we're constantly doing research and doing stuff. Yeah, you almost have to, read some books, read articles. But if something isn't working in your love life and you keep making the same mistakes, then figure out what that is. And you just have to take the impetus to do so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And a final thought, like, I think we have to look at ourselves before it's always their fault and that's why I'm alone or whatever. Right. Sometimes we have to say, it's like Einstein said, if you keep approaching the same problem, whatever it was about creating the same solution that doesn't work, you keep going back to that potential solution, you have to think out of the box a little bit. And I think it's the same thing with relationships. We always have to start with ourselves. Who am I? What do I want? What do I have to offer? And be realistic and authentic instead of just, pointing the finger and like not being circumspect whatsoever. And I think a lot of men and a lot of women are like that, where they don't realize it. They're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Silke Schwarzkopf, creator, host, superstar, hostess with the most of Second Act TV, one of the hottest shows on YouTube. Catch me on there. I think we're up to almost 2 million views together, and a lot more to come. It's amazing. And we have so much fun as we did today. So thank you so much, Silke, for being on Guys Radio, and all the best. And I'll see you on the flip side on Second Act TV soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert.
If you enjoy the guests and content I bring you each and every week to Guys TV and Guys Radio, please support us by subscribing to our channels and platforms. Thank you.